Like, just the diversity of the continent, being able to see that in one place, I think is going to be very cool.
Imagine a stadium or an arena with 2,000, 3,000, why not 10,000 people.
And all I'm hearing is there are protests in Kenya.
All of a sudden, about 60 million people watching the Carry1st Africa Cup.
And to be part of that whole, frenzy was just surreal.
One thing that happens when you solve hard problems is that you encounter problems you never even budgeted to solve in the first place. All right, let's talk about the qualifiers.
There's no way. There's no way. There's no way.
5 in a row now for him. We're gonna have a new.
It started out with South Africa. We had the finals between 3 teams. I believe it was Deadeye Esports, Not Just Gaming, and Cast Esports.
This is gonna be it. This is gonna be eventually the end, and Cast Esports becoming the champions in the South Africa Carry1st Championship Regional Qualifiers. 3-2. They are the victors.
Cast Esports won, a really amazing team, and for us that was a great start to the event or to the tournament scope. We were super happy. Ghana was smooth sailing Aura 233, scaled through.
For the guts, the glory, the championship for Aura 233. They are Ghanaian champions.
Nigeria was interesting because I think Sierra 7 came from the losers brackets and then won the tournament in a 4-3 map, which was crazy.
We're in front of life was shut down at Sierra 7. They get the job done.
لفريق الأوبا كان تستهيل ليكون the winner of Carry1st Africa Cup. الرجل المغربي الفريق الذي
Champions of Kenya. The Kenyan qualifier champions crowned. This is Delta Prime.
objective be lost هو فريق يفوز بجولة.
And things were really rolling and set in stone. And then I basically opened up Spotify one day to listen to my regular news podcast, and all I'm hearing is there are protests in Kenya.
The streets of Nairobi and the area around Parliament were filled with protests.
I'm hearing people are marching the streets. I go online and all my Kenyan colleagues and friends are basically on the streets, posting about it on Instagram. And next thing that comes to my mind is, oh shoot, we have a tournament in this country a month from now or 2 months from now. Everything was halted when it came to having the grand finals, and we quickly realized if we still want to use Kenya, which we wanted to because we hadn't really made arrangements for anywhere else, and Kenya made the most logical sense when it came to visas and travel. If we still wanted to use Kenya, then we have to wait. There's nothing we can do. We have to actually pause and see where things go. So we had to go back to all our partners after announcing, both from the sponsorship side, B2B, technical partners, eventing, and say, guys, we're slowing things down. That was tough. That was incredibly tough, and it really changed our plans. But in the end, we made it work, right? We were still in Kenya, and things were successful. When the entire scope of all the qualifiers were done, like 2-3 months later, maybe, we start approaching members of the winning teams from each country, so Cast being the winning team from South Africa, to get passport details so we can start processing visas for them. I think they submit their visas, and sometime in the evening I just get a random call from my tournament operations manager. Right, so I open up my WhatsApp and I look at a screenshot of an Excel spreadsheet, and I can see the name and date of birth of a player on Cast Esports that was highlighted. He turned 18 while the qualifiers were going on. A lot of people recognize this team to probably be the best team in Africa. So at that point, we know what to do, but we don't just have the courage to go ahead and do it because we're like, this is Casts. The other one that happened was The Egypt one, tournament happened, Instinct wins, and then we come back and we find out that Instinct had an underage player. The qualifiers were quite an interesting period for us because we had to tackle smooth sailing, but also just absolute chaos on the PR and player relations side.
The main challenge at this point of time is really about finding sponsors. We're executing on a kind of tight planning and budgets. A lot of the discussions we have, like the budgets have been planned already by the different brands. So it's a bit difficult to slot in an additional event into an existing planning.
Through the process of talking to a sponsor, and yeah, what does that look like?
So the relationship building with brands and our approach was to firstly bring them into a room or into a conversation and really tell them the story of the cup and what we were trying to achieve, giving gamers a global stage to do what they do best, which is something that wouldn't necessarily be seen otherwise if we didn't give them the platform to showcase their skills and their passion. The sponsorship commitments was quite tricky to get brands to actually sign off. I think there were a few factors involved. So in order to get a brand to buy into sponsorship for the first year of something was quite a big challenge. I think the biggest disappointment or challenge in not hearing back from sponsors or not getting them to engage after an initial conversation where they showed interest is the hope that you build up in having the conversation with them, receiving a lot of engaging questions, saying that it aligns with their vision and goals, saying that the sponsorship package would fit into their budget and that they would definitely take it to the management team, and then a brand just going silent, or all of a sudden after maybe 3 weeks of no contact just giving us a hard no. It definitely plays with your emotions. It's not an easy process. I think a lot of brands didn't realize that maybe putting in that extra time and work would have put them on a stage to connect with the gaming audience in a great way.
What makes a great story from Brett? Well, a great story is the magnitude of its moving parts, and we had quite the story to tell. Where do we begin? I mean, there was over 100 teams for Carry1st Africa Cup. It was also a first of its kind. You know, we had teams from around the continent, culminating in 6 teams for the grand finals. And from the start, we saw the tropes of something spectacular. We saw something that I think Carry1st hadn't had before, which was seriously strong human interest stories. Peoples of different languages, of different races. There was this melting pot of diversity and really high skill set and passion coming together in the space. And that was very exciting for us, like just understanding the African picture. Look, I think it was just the fact that we had so many partners that were so excited about this, and not just in South Africa, but South Africa, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Ghana. We had GH1 in Ghana, we had K24 in Kenya, we had Next Media in Uganda, we had Star TV in Tanzania, and all of these people came together in a matter of weeks. We were just so passionate about this process that it really resonated with the media partners. And next thing, in the matter of 2 weeks, we'd been on the biggest national broadcasters in Uganda, in Kenya, in Tanzania, and Ghana. And I love the framework in which people approach esports, is because they really took us seriously. You know, it hadn't been broadcasted before on the continent like this. What we're doing is on the same level, if not better, than the rest of the world.
Let's touch on Morocco. The incident that happened with the visa.
Yeah, I think people don't realize how many close calls happened that eventually didn't come to light. So I think it was a case of one of the players in Morocco submitted his visa documents, but one of the documents wasn't in good condition. So they asked him for a resubmission, and he resubmitted early, like more than early enough. But we kept waiting, and everybody else had gotten their visa but him. And it got so bad that the day his team was meant to travel to Kenya, he still didn't have his visa. So we're talking to the booking agency. I'm calling the head of the booking agency. They apparently have been talking to the Kenyan whatever, like immigration or whatever. They still haven't gotten a response. There is a world where the other 4 members just have to come first, and hopefully this guy's visa comes through. And eventually, who knows, came through, because like while they're on their way there, his visa comes through, and I'm just like, shoot, okay, they fly. But that was wild. That was, I think, when that happened, I genuinely just had the confirmation in my head that, like, listen, no matter what else happens here, everything is going to be fine, because if this came through, then we'll be fine. We would be fine.
Yeah, it arrives in the morning and there's no bag.
Yeah, that one was, because what happened was, Senez was meant to arrive 1 a.m. of Thursday morning, right? So it's 5 a.m. in the morning, and I'm getting a call from the person who's leading the logistics of getting people to their accommodation. He has just checked in the Moroccan team, and while I'm thanking him for, thanks for sorting this out by 5 a.m. in the morning, he then says, Senez probably hasn't told you the bad news. The bag didn't show up.
This bag contained all the merchandises that were to be worn at the event, down from players' jerseys, their jackets, the winners' jackets, and a couple of Carry1st merchandises that were there, even down to the trophy. The trophy and a couple of other items. Physically with you a day to the main event, a day to when we're supposed to have the media shoot, and these players would need to have these jerseys on so they could get pictures taken for stream assets and whatever creatives that were to be made. So yeah, it was a big worry, and we had to contact the airport's security, to tell them, one of our luggages did not make it, how do we get it, and all that. At about around 5 p.m. in the evening, I got a message that the luggage was at the airport. Lo and behold, it was available. And yeah, I was feeling much relieved, because I could not imagine what would have happened if we had a media day without those jerseys for the players to put on.
Picture.
One primary thing we always wanted to do, and I think we achieved that, was make these players feel like athletes. The ecosystem, and I don't just mean gaming, I mean media, isn't yet well aware of just how important these people can be as athletes. So when that happened, I was happy about that. These players really felt like they were something. The media day, the photographer instructing them on how to pose and what to do, they felt good about themselves, and I felt good for them too. I felt that I was so happy that was happening. That showed how happy they were to be featured in something like this, which is cool. A lot of people knew that Group 1 was a group of death. I mean, you had 3 teams that had won their regional qualifiers. So it was already going to be a super tough group. What no one expected was Delta beating Aura, which then happened, and everyone is just shocked.
Kenya have come back. Kenya have brought it back from the brink. 5-3-1. Oh my God! Kenya have brought it back from the brink. I do not believe it. Look at the crowd. Someone show this crowd.
Another shocker was, I think, NXG's flooring of Sun Esports, because they were second place to cast in South Africa. So when they floored Sun Esports, a team that had Darox, that raised an eyebrow because everyone wasn't surprised. But besides that, I think the group stages went fairly easy and everything else was cool.
Out of the hundreds of teams that registered, only 2 of our champions remain. South Africa versus Kenya, Delta versus NXG.
NXG versus Delta. I don't think that is the grand finals pairing that anybody called.
With Delta Esports making their way in and NXG making their way into the final. Let's go straight into it.
It is now time to see who is going to be crowned African champion. South Africans, right now, backwards and forwards. Michael has to get the win. The contest is still there. Quinstad draws the final blow. Noxious set the stage, finding the hard point, 250 to 190.
The South Africans take hard point.
Okay, so information is in. The admins have made a ruling. Due to the K9 unit being deployed, it is going to be a map forfeit, which means despite the fantastic display from Noxious, they didn't read the rules quite close enough, and they will be taking their second map loss of the tournament, and it is currently 1-0 to Delta. 2 versus 5, excuse me, and here comes the push, and it is an instant retake. 7-2 is the score. Noxious back. Gotta be Michael to make the play. Onto the point we go. Still ticking over. 7 seconds and counting. Quinstad, Avatar cooking up a storm. Everyone trying to get close. There's no one nearby.
The glory.
Going to be Noxious Gaming, your first African champions in Call of Duty Mobile.
Not something that you typically see when you look at, world championships for major titles. You only see the action, you only see the actual matches that happen in the rivalry. But I think with the Carry1st Africa Cup, what we showed is more of the human side of esports, right? We show the breaks, we show the players meeting each other, we show more of the actual interactions rather than just the gameplay.
Even with the map forfeit for the first round, they still did a crazy good job and they still won. So that was really cool to see. And yeah, shout out to them.
We had all of a sudden about 60 million people watching the Carry1st Africa Cup. Honestly, the skills that we have in Africa on this continent in the broadcast space is second to none. Africa is really the next growth chapter for gaming. We need to understand the power of it. We need to understand the hunger for this sport. And I think that's the learning, is like we need to be on the front foot constantly. We need to serve the gamer. I just want us to tell good stories, and I think we'll continue to do that as Carry1st.
So there are global eyes on the Carry1st Africa Cup, and I see it as our opportunity to show them, and show game publishers as well, the immense talent and opportunities that they can bring to African gamers by giving them that space.
Imagine a stadium or an arena with 2,000, 3,000, why not 10,000 people?
I say this all the time, but I want people to see our players. So the more that people can see our players, and we can change this, the vision people have when they think about gaming in Africa, I think the better.
One last thing, always Carry1st.